Hello people, and welcome back to part 9 of Ilos, our modded Cities Skylines build. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Thank you so much indeed for all the support during our little live stream where we've made some refinements to the campus we made a couple of episodes ago. We were having a problem with the King Leno car parks. When you actually use these things, they spawn in as a 400 entertainment value park, which draws a ton of people, so we had to use Ploppable Rico to actually amend this into an office building, which is not causing the entire population of the city to flock to these car parks anymore. So thank you so much for all the support on the live streams. Glad you guys are still enjoying them. However, in today's episode, we are going to continue working on some mild grid designs, and right now we've got a big old spike for residential demand. So now feels like a good point to start working with some of the more interesting Phoenix-inspired suburban road network designs. However, to have a little talk about what we're going to do today, we do need to head over into Google Earth. Okay guys, so welcome to Phoenix. So we're all very familiar with kind of the standard mild grid patterns that we've been working with so far, with all these kind of variating designs, okay, things we've covered before. But what I want to talk about today is kind of Phoenix's watery suburbs and how we're going to start working with some of these ideas moving forward, having kind of golf courses and waterways in between the housing. Not something quite this severe today. We will do something like this eventually, but just kind of giving a few examples. We also have one south of Phoenix in Sun Lakes. If I can find it, here we go. I'm getting very familiar with Phoenix now, as it turns out. But look at these road patterns, right? Super interesting, especially these ones right here. And this is what I'm kind of keen on working on today, is this kind of circular format with lots of very heavily repeated symmetrical patterns. And we're going to be using Roundabout Builder to do so. So some nice ideas in store today. Let's get started, shall we? So this is the space in which we're going to work today. Looking at that kind of big watery suburb, I definitely want to do something with this lake to develop some kind of ideas, but we're not quite there yet, okay? So let's play with another half-mile grid frame, exactly how we did with Tucson University, okay? Very nice. Now, because we're working in these half-mile grids, it's now really easy just to come over with our road guidelines to measure 50 through the middle, and then 50 through the other way as well. So trim these up. We can come up to 50 here, which is this road guideline. And we can now bring everyone across like that. Also going to do the same with the diagonal rows through the middle, which is going to give us kind of a triangular diamond setup, alright? But now I'm going to be playing with the Roundabout Builder mod, which is super handy for obviously creating roundabouts, but also working with road designs like this, and we'll have a little chat about how exactly this is going to work today. So you can pick your road, and with Roundabout Builder, I'm just going to go for a 2-lane one-way road for right now, but I'll probably end up upgrading them. I want my radius here to be 360. Okay, and what this is going to do is generate a roundabout within the middle. We can click this now, and this then gives me a roundabout. Okay, of course, these nodes are far too close together, but we're only talking about setting up this initial frame at the minute, okay? It's now a case of repeating the pattern yet again. So we'll come through the middle, and everyone should be snapping at 45-degree angles in that central point as well. I'm going to bring this down. Fantastic. When we'll come back into Roundabout Builder, and this time we're going to change our radius down to 272, which is going to give me my next roundabout. Now the space in here is going to give us near perfect back-to-back zonable 4x4 spaces, which is of course quite appealing for a suburb like this, but we'll probably do some ploppables where the zoning does get a little bit janky, but for the most part it's going to be pretty zonable. And then we're going to repeat the same process yet again if we are getting a non-connection, because Roundabout Builder can mess with the nodes. We will get this happening occasionally, but this is just a frame for right now. We don't really have to worry about that. And if it's not letting you connect in from them, then we can simply just come on with Road Anarchy yet again. And repeat our 45-degree angles, with everyone coming back into the middle. So we're really kind of respecting the geometry today to create these kind of suburban road designs, alright? Cool. Go back into Roundabout Builder, and then my final radius here is going to be 184, and that's even my final roundabout, okay? So we're now starting to see this ringed structure come in, alright? And everyone's going to have a nice time with it. And then from each of the main corners now, we're going to come out by 11 over here. And then 11 here too. And then when you start to match up kind of all four corners of this now with that 11 tile unit, everyone's going to meet really nicely in the central space. Alright? So once you have this set up in the middle, okay, you've got all your three rings, and of course you can carry on to repeat this design as many times as you like and as wide as you like, but I'm just using it in one of my half-mark grid setups here. And then I'm going to start coming out now with a curve road tool off kind of each of the north, south, east and west points. I'm going to come out by 5. And now we can curve by 5. There's a very small sweet spot where you can just land on the road guideline. It can be a little bit finicky at times. But there you go. We can curve by 5 and then we can come down by 5, which is going to give us these nice little curvatures. So this is what we're looking for, a nice, simple curve by 5 and then straight piece by 5. The road guideline can be somewhat finicky around these points. If it is, then just take off your angle and grid snapping. There we go. And then we can come down. And then you just want to repeat this for north, south, east and west. And we can now trim off these roads in the diagonal area. And we're left with something that looks a little bit like this right now. So the next thing we want to do is making sure that road guideline is on, is to come around and now mark off some little pegs on the first node on each side of each section, okay? So we find that first node, and we draw out a little marker in each of these outer rings, if you like, okay? And there we go. So now, kind of each of these little domes at the top circle, we now have these pegs along the first node on the outside. We can now come in with a curve road tool, and we can come out by 6 and then curve up by 6, and then repeat that curve onto the road guideline of the next node up. Okay? Do that this side as well, which will leave you with a pattern that looks like this, and it's now a case of repeating this design for each of these little pegs that we've just added into the frame. So now with each kind of peg hooked into those initial frames, we can now start to kind of look at cutting up and dividing this design to actually flow as some sort of suburban connection. So we're going to remove these corner roads. Now we do want to save space for an arterial or some sort of collector road to come through into this neighborhood as well, okay? So we'll have to bear that in mind. I'm going to delete this node here for right now, even though he won't care. Ilos drivers are different gravy. And these ones on the corners too. So now really we can start to trim off the initial roundabout builder roads, which are going to give us a much more aesthetically appealing and interesting shape, and indeed one from Google Earth as well, right? So kind of playing with this format using roundabout builder and different radius sizes and types and different sorts of zoning, and then chiseling out different shapes from your initial frame allows us to start playing with some really interesting geometric kind of road network designs that are found very heavily in Phoenix. So I'm a big fan of these, okay? I'm a big fan. What I'm going to do with this road here, so we'll talk about what's going to happen in the middle, because I'm pretty sure everyone knows we're going to do water at some point today. I'm going to use the same palette of little collector roads that we used during our previous kind of road network expansion discussion, if you like. So I'll do the same over here again as well. So this one's going to upgrade. This one's going to come straight through. I'm also happy to break the shades here. And then let's delete that one. And then we'll bring it back in ourselves. Let's make sure we're using the same road. Wonderful. So I think I'm going to be mostly happy with that for the time being, alright? Very nice indeed. So of course at the minute these are isolated road networks, okay? Which means that people, they can't get to them. So I'm going to start coming in with a little bit of freeform here and connecting in these curves here too. Alright. Now let's discuss what's going to happen with the middle, with the water feature, if you like. So let's find a nice little spot to go ahead and mark out our height. So always using the kind of sync terrain options here to mark out a distance of -10 meters, which for me is a pretty happy medium for most terraforming work. And likewise +10 elevation if you're doing kind of elevation work as well. So I'm going to right click that and then come into my kind of central area, if you like, and just start flattening out an initial space for some water designs to lie, okay? And also see I'm going to want to trim off this one here as well, and we can start bringing this down too. There's a little bit of road network left there, so make sure we get rid of that also. Okay, just kind of a rough shape at the minute. Of course, this will be chiseled and refined as the build goes on, as we see how we feel, of course. And let's bring this down. So very much like we did in our live stream a couple of weeks ago, I'm an enormous fan of the European stone bridges with a water source around them. Very nice design. And of course, when they're illuminated at night, they look even better. So we can already start to see some possibilities of what's going to happen here. So let's come in and grab that content creator road. We're going to grab the European 2-lane stone bridge with a curve road tool and with force to elevation using the fine road tools. We can snap to the road guideline here and snap perfectly to it over this way. I think I'm relatively happy with that, okay? And then I also want it to connect into the arterial here as well. Alright, but that is horrific. So we're just going to grab that node and say go to the same height as this one here. And I think I want this central node to perhaps be a little bit raised so there's a touch of gradient in the bridge itself, alright? And now that we have that kind of main bit of infrastructure in, I can come ahead and grab my level terrain tool again now and continue to just terraform out around here. We don't have to stick rigidly to these patterns either. We can start shattering some of these and bringing in different size of road networks, but very much playing and respecting with the geometry is going to lead to significantly more interesting suburbs, I think. Okay. So I think, again, I'm happy to repeat this little European bridge process over here on kind of each of the main links together, if you like, okay? Lots of very heavily repeated patterns is quite a good thing for this sort of build. Let's bring this down as well. And we'll probably bring in some sort of maybe 4-lane through this way. Treat it as kind of a main entrance into the suburb, if you like. Okay, so we'll terraform this out. And again, just matching up with those road guidelines and curve tools, everyone's going to have a fantastic time, alright? So to make sure that, again, this central node is actually probably a good idea to set it to the height of this one here. So then we're going to be level and medium. And we can now just set all of these node heights to the same one that we have over here, which is going to leave that same kind of embanked feeling alongside the water suburb, okay? Very nice indeed. So I'm going to grab my little palm roads again. Of course, this can be done in the vanilla game now. You don't actually need network skins to upgrade the trees on the road. And I believe network skins can cause a little bit of lag as well if you use it too much. So to see that functionality in the base game now is going to be really helpful. And of course, I'm talking about upgrading the trees that are on a road now. Very exciting. Very exciting indeed. Okay, but this is starting to come together. I think I'm going to come back into my false elevation now and grab another little European stone bridge into this corner, although we want to make sure that we are, of course, forcing the elevation using the road tools. And let's go ahead and get our water source in, because that's what everyone's waiting for, isn't it? So I've discovered a few people don't really know how to use this water source, so I'll cover it briefly here. Pause your game, click the water source, and then you just want to click and hold, and then drag up and down, and you will control the level of the water, which is highlighted by that, kind of water level marker. So I'm just going to do that, and then as you let your game play, the water source will fill the height and area that you've specified with the water source. So it's really easy to use, but I've seen some people have trouble with it. So hopefully that clears it up a little bit. But here we go, alright? Respect the desert oasis, everyone. What a wonderful little suburb this is going to be. So, talking about lighting, of course. So at the minute in Ilos, we have, let's actually just go ahead and check out the nighttime view. When we look at the city from the bird's eye view, we can see that we have the pink diamond interchange over here that we made. This really stands out when we're trying to take a little bit of the sting out of the pink. Okay, I'm never going to get away from that one, which is poor choice of words on my behalf. And then, of course, some blue lighting over near the green city suburb. And I really like the way that these are really identifiable from the bird's eye view. Big bright pink lights over here. Some blue here, and I think what we're going to do in this space, it already looks amazing with the, respecting the geometry here as it fills in this Margrid frame, is to come in with some green lights from the After Dark DLC, of course. So let's go for one of these. We're going to come in, we're going to have to turn on Prop Anarchy very briefly. Nighttime view also helps with this. Also, let's go for one at the back of the bridge, and then kind of two either side, okay? How do we feel about that? I think it's nice, isn't it? I think we can definitely get away with the combination of the green and the water. And at night time, this pattern's going to repeat across all of these sections to introduce just a wonderful, wonderful little suburban design. Okay? So I'm really happy with it. It's a super nice sort of theme. Now what we want to do is really just kind of come through. You can keep the one-way system if you want. The one-way system isn't a bad thing as long as it's complete and people can move between the different layers. With roads and they won't get stuck at one end, then it's fine. But I think I want to keep the one-way system in just for traffic purposes. So before we have a look at introducing metro into this suburb, because they're going to need public transport, and there is a metro line just through here, we are going to have a look at upgrading the main road into some 7-lane asymmetrical vibes. So we're going to come off our info view, going to come down to ground. So this one here, yep, I want 4 lanes facing in. That's fine. And this one as well. Cool. And then these roads either side of the main junctions to now move down into 6-lane, or probably want to do the concrete version of these. I did have a couple of comments from some resident Arizona people here who said we don't really get much of the red sort of stylized brick in Arizona. It's mainly kind of concrete reserves, so I'll probably stick with these for the most part. Okay, and then likewise again, as we approach another main junction along with the Margrid frame, we want to move back into asymmetrical 7-lane as we approach the main junction, which is exactly right here. And then 6-lane either side, so we will need to do a little bit of traffic manager here to fix up the turning lanes. Let's come into those. So with the configuration that I've tested in this design here, it's actually helpful to maintain the second turning lane on the kind of main turns. So I'm going to leave those in because it does help. Could also do lane connectors here, but I don't think there's a need. Most people are pretty sensible in where they're headed. So now starting to see much more personality and design coming into our road networks now, right? We're seeing this Ultimate American Road Pack come in. Really happy with it. Definitely want to carry on upgrading 6-lane through here too. Make sure that we are sticking in the same configurations at this junction as well though. It's been a real learning process kind of getting to grips with all the different lane mathematic options that are available in modded Cities Skylines at least. It's been a learning experience. I hope it's not too painful to watch either for those that are still enjoying Ilos this far into the series. Okay, that's not too bad. So we'll also remove the noise pollution from the highway road by upgrading into these as well, which is important to also kind of bear in mind. Again, I'm going to do the same thing with Traffic Manager here. I'm just going to remove, no, that's not what we want. Remove the right turn here and the left turn on this side. So I'm keeping 2 turning lanes on the main road because this is a busy road and is only going to get busier as the city grows. And, you know, of course, if one of these junctions does become like horrendous, this is where we can dive back into kind of trusty designs like the bow tie intersection here, you know, which is a way of just relieving the pressure off of a main 4-way. So there's options available to us if, you know, a regular 4-way junction does start to become clogged, even though we've kind of paired up the lane mathematics. So we'll now move into kind of bringing in the rest of the road network. I want this to be a perfect 45-degree angle. Again, I've seen a few people not know this. You can hold control out of a junction to snap to the angle. So see how we stay 45 degrees here? That can be helpful if you want perfectly straight roads out of a junction. So let's bring this out up until this road guideline right here. That's going to be fine. And again, we can even start bringing in maybe some of the new content creator trees here to line the road. How about this, everyone? Yeah, I think that's nice, right? A little pink treed road that kind of comes into the suburb here. I think I'm going to be happy with that. And again, I think I'm feeling perhaps a one-way treed road for these middle roads. And then where we come down onto the outer roads, we'll maybe go for a version with grass, all right? And also take out this middle frame in the center here too. Not upgrade it, actually delete it, that's what we want. So we can do a couple of interesting things with these little heads here. We can turn them into parkland, and I might even break the outer rim of one of them and just have it as a park. Again, Google Earth, massively helpful for all these sorts of designs. So now we've kind of got one section upgraded. I think I'm relatively happy with this palette, okay? Let's go with that. And again, it's just a simple case now of coming back to the freeform tool and bringing those curves back in. Okay, we can take this one off here and bring this one off, and where we don't have a road connection in on one of the corners, maybe we'll do it over here again as well. Let's go ahead and grab this road and we'll come to our curve tool and just hook into this guideline here. We can maybe snap these off and go for perhaps just a regular road and bring this down by 10 either side, and then it's just going to match perfectly again with the road guidelines and the curve tool. So not every kind of junction off of the main arterial roads will have an entry into this suburb, but there's walking opportunities here, pathways during our detailing time-lapse, of course. Okay, so I think I'm happy with this. I'm going to upgrade all of my roads into this palette here, and then we can start having a look at some green city zoning and detailing. So I'm not a huge lover of the kind of constantly exposed stone here, so a little bit of softened terrain tool is just going to take a touch of that away so it's not quite as severe. If you're a fan of it, you can leave it in, of course, but it's not going to be for everyone. I'm going to carry on bringing this one in here too. Okay, starting to get happy with this little road layout now. We can maybe even save this spot here for some sort of, car park where locals and visitors alike can park here and then enjoy a walk, in and around the desert oasis suburb here. There's lots of ideas and possibilities. So we're going to get ourselves a district painted out. So this is automatically named hills, but it's not really a hill. So we'll go for lakes instead. Thank you so much for all of your support for Candy. If you guys haven't checked out Candy, he's a wonderful content creator and a valued member of our community. Okay, I'm really happy with this design now, right? This is wonderful news indeed. Let's go ahead and give the green cities specialization to the residential, because I definitely want green cities in this sort of vibe. So the vast majority of this can be manually zoned. It's all pretty even 4x4, if not 3x4 zonings. So super easy to zone up. So a lot of it can be manually zoned, but I definitely want to do some sort of plopping action as well, okay? Who doesn't love plopping every now and again? So filter by kind of 4 by something assets here, right? And we can start to place in a few of these sorts of houses ourselves. We can maybe come on with Anarchy, and we will need to do a touch of finagling with the old Move It to get some of these to fit in, but it's not a huge issue, and likewise here as well. Of course, all this will be refined during our detailing time-lapse today. The suburb should look really cute once it's done. As we kind of sit here now, we're going to notice a really nice way of using green cities actually to form an area like this. I'm a huge fan of it. We'll see someone using our bridges here as well. I'm enjoying that. So these guys will definitely want some sort of temporary power line as well. Let's go ahead and grab a connection from this point for right now. Of course, everything at some point will sync through, but we'll give them a helping hand. So I'm just going to go ahead and zone up the main spaces anyway. And then we'll probably come back and plop during our detailing time lapse. Okay, so I've just spent a little bit of time manually zoning all of the kind of large, bigger boxes within this new grid pattern. I guess you can call it a grid, right? It's a circle within a grid, I suppose, isn't it? whatever you want to call it, but it's starting to come together already, isn't it? So of course we are playing Cities Skylines, we cannot forget that. These people are going to want services and schools, assets and whatnot, so it just placed in a little police fire station here, which will probably end up moving during our detailing time lapse. Just had a little bit of a fire happening here, which they have now arrived. Here they go, using some of the new content creator vehicles as well. It's one of these San Francisco style fire trucks. Was it New York, is it? I can't remember which city it was from, but it's nice anyway. Okay, so it looks like we could have an issue with power jumping across, which we can fix with a couple of assets, if not earthquake sensors. We definitely don't want power lines linking everyone through here. So we'll see what we can do about that. But for right now, everyone will just get a temporary power connection, so we're not playing with any sort of abandonment issues or lack of services. Wonderful. So I mentioned that over here, I wanted some sort of visitor center. Maybe we can put a school in with this as well. I'm now just thinking maybe we want to push this just a little further back, okay? Let's come into our roads, we'll come over to the maintenance tab. Let's grab ourselves a parking lot road. And we could just come straight across like this, which I don't think is going to be one of the worst ideas we've ever had. It's definitely going to give us the parking lot aesthetic, and then we can come in with some parking spaces over this side. Okay, it's going to be nice. Let's have a look at a school, of course. Let's go for, always a huge fan of the Green Cities asset, of course. Let's go in with Anarchy, and then we'll move it with Move It. So that's going to cover us for elementary and high school demand, and weighing the demand for university at the minute as well, thanks to the Tucson University. So education is going to be fine. Let's come ahead and place in one of our police stations, which do work as really nice corner assets. So we could possibly get away with placing it here and perhaps doing a little bit of surface painter just to help the corner police station settle in a little easier here. Okay, might also drop it on this corner over here if we like, although we could trigger some people by placing a service asset on an arterial. But I think it's worth the risk for the aesthetic payoff, isn't it? Yeah, I've decided it is. I'm happy with that. Seeing some people come into the suburb now, very exciting, right? Very exciting. I love this game. So much fun. Especially when we start discovering, new ideas and new techniques for designs like this. Very exciting. Very exciting indeed. Now, there is one more amendment I want to make to the road network before we start thinking about moving into some sort of detailing time-lapse. Let's force down to the ground here, and then I want to force the elevation as we come into the bridge, but not with that road. We want to use the content creator one. Wonderful. And again, we'll just grab that height, Control and H it to this height here. That'll give us that same level of embanking, alright? Very nice. So very happy to see this symmetrical waterway develop in and around the suburb now. Alright, so there's one more thing I want to talk about before we do look at a detailing time-lapse, because the build's coming together nicely now, is the inclusion of sort of a park or observation area, if you like. Okay, so I think we're going to remove the road frame from one of these points, and we're going to just terraform it out a little more. Okay, and then let's make this an actual park area, because we don't have any park areas in Ilos yet. I have not been playing with them. That's going to give us DJ Park. Wonderful. Thank you so much for all your support, DJ. You're a wonderful member of our community. Really appreciate it. I think I'm also feeling maybe just some smaller touches of elevation in this park as well. Alright, now just give me a second here. We're going to level out and just create almost essentially like a mini mountain. Now, there's a very distinct suburb I've seen in Phoenix that kind of uses these lake designs, but also waterfront lakes as well. And they kind of have these little mountain parks right next to water. Really quite cool. And then with this now, we can hopefully just paint out the park area. So we can place in some assets. Okay, let's give it that one there. Not a really small park. It's not going to hit level 5. It's not here for a park life cheese or anything like that. Okay, but placing in a gazebo. And perhaps a nature reserve viewing platform as well. I don't think I'm totally adverse to. And definitely lots of nature reserve pathway with decorations in this park as well. Of course, let's force down to ground and we can start to meander these through here and down the lakefront. We also have some props off of the workshop today too. Let's go ahead and create a little slope that kind of comes up this side. That's going to be nice. Let's come out from this angle as well, and we can hopefully just meander up the top of the mountain here. Again, I'm happy with it, and there's going to be plenty of overgrowth palettes that we can use in today's build to really bring a little more kind of life and personality to the shorelines. You can maybe get some of these new content creator ones in. Of course, base game overgrowth is always a firm favorite and kind of tried and tested. And then definitely lots and lots of our workshop palms kind of in and around these parks here too. I'm also not adverse to using perhaps some of the chunkier, thicker content creator live oaks as well. Just a real kind of heavy, dense area of a very micro, almost mini nature reserve, okay? So again, another example of how we can afford to be maybe a little more creative with our parks. They don't have to be these level 5, symmetrical, perfect areas. Just a little mound with a couple of attractions is going to help us differentiate between the areas here. However, guys, that does feel like a wonderful place for a detailing time-lapse. We have a lot to do. I'm going to carry on refining with Plot the Globals and Rico to bring in the right green cities assets. See how this one clashes a little bit. So do all that to flesh out all of the zonable space within the network. Bring some of our Ilos Greenbelt and indeed the metro into the area as well, which we've briefly talked about today. We do have a metro line here. So I think I'm going to extend the metro line up onto this arterial road. I don't think it should really follow this one. It would have made sense to put it here, but it's only a couple of stops. It won't take much moving. Yeah, and find a way to align the metro station along the main road here. And then other little bits and pieces. All things we're so fond of. And then hopefully, once it's done, we'll be happy. And there's Grand City as well. Wonderful. We do get the next milestone, which is great. But otherwise, we will be right back. Okay guys, that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, likes, comments and shares below really help bring more people to my channel. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. And if you've really fallen in love with the work, there are links down to Instant Gaming and Patreon below, which do help support me directly. Really complicated build this one, took a long time to get my head around it, but I think it's really cool to take some of these inspirations from Phoenix to start fleshing out much more interesting suburban road network patterns. And there's a whole host of inspiration we can take from Google Earth for this sort of stuff. Roundabout Builder, massively helpful mod to kind of get these very even geometric shapes in and using the maths to get everything aligned. And of course with our own touches of detailing with the lights and the European stone bridges and this little riverside park. Huge fan of this area. There was a ton of detailing as always that you guys would have missed, so do hang around for the rest of the outro tag and check out this thing as it fits into the rest of Ilos. But otherwise I will shut up and I will leave it there. And thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.